welcome to another high-powered episode of the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder, coming to you live from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado. I'm joined by my awesome partner in crime, Mr. King James Stallcup of the Stallcup Electrical Education. And we have an awesome show for you guys. I really appreciate all the participation we had this week. I hit 75K. That was just so awesome, and it was so much fun. We had a lot of interaction with people, and everyone loves the myths, how we come up with them. And most of the time I do apprentice questions that they ask me, and then I was like, you know what, we're going to run it as a myth, and we'll have James bring his cool slides and do some research and bring you guys the answer to stuff. And it's just so awesome, so amazing that you can do all this. And you got some good news coming forward with your new education system.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're really excited about that.
Almost, well, I will be tonight finished with the journeyman. I've already done all the calculation stuff. And then I'll start on the generator, transformer, motor, compressor. And that's going to be our first one that we go out with. The journeyman, it's it's time consuming. I'm telling you, there's so much information in there. But we have all the fill in the blanks, and all that. I mean, there's just so much to it. And, anybody that's ever used the publication will tell you it's packed full of information. And plus, we put it in an easy format for people to learn. So I'm looking forward to it because everything's going to be in color with the new colored illustrations. And I'm telling you, you've seen it too, Bill. I've showed you some. But it looks amazing. The best I've ever seen our publications ever look. And
looks like we have Mike Wilson popping up in the chat.
Hey, Mike. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. Awesome. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, and I'm just so amazed with how every time that you have like these little setbacks where your stuff gets deleted or something happens, then you have to go back and you have to revamp, and like every single time it just gets better and better, and you find different ways to do different angles of where you could actually work the calculations and stuff like that, and fill in the blanks, and all the stuff you have is just so cool. Like I say, I think you did a post in Dummies a while back. You should probably start doing that again. That was pretty fun. And where you could actually work the problems, and you just ask the question, and then we have to go in there, try to figure it out on our own, and then you show us at the end. Because I think you did that one about conductors that fit in a raceway, and that was really good. I thought it was awesome. I learned a lot on that one.
Yeah,
like how to actually go in the table and find it and figure it out, and then you come back in and tell us how to figure it out. I thought that was a good post you used to do every week.
Yeah, one of the things I'm going to start doing once I get all this updated, which shouldn't be, here in November, everything will be up on the new publications that I have done. And once I get all that done, I'm actually going to have articles that are going to be written that'll be part of the blog page, but I'm also going to post them over on the social media. And then what we're going to do is every time we do one of those posts, we're also going to have a video portion that's going to link into that. And so that'll take you over to the YouTube channel. So there's going to be a lot of interaction with all of it. So you can see it, the post, and it'll have a great article, and we'll be using the new illustrations and everything. And there'll just be article after article. We're probably going to write, probably by this time next year, you're probably looking at around 300 articles will be on there that we explain everything. And then naturally, if you want to go further in detailed discussion and all that, that's where the publication comes in. You can purchase it as a PDF, or I'm going to find out what the cost is to print it in color, and whatever the color is,
I'm there.
I'll have a file set up there. So if anybody ever orders one, I'll go ahead and pay for it, have it shipped out, and then I'll make whatever, I make on it. But that copy will be a little expensive. It won't be cheap.
Oh, dude. So, I don't care. I'm your first customer, so just let me know.
Oh, you know what I found? We were going through cleaning up the office and stuff, and I found a thing from NFPA in their magazine, and it has. I'm gonna take a picture. It has an announcement of when they started publishing my publication.
Oh wow,
I
that's cool.
I just happened to see it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm keeping this." That's sort of like some history there. So,
Yeah. Oh, looks like we have Mr. G in the
hey, Juan.
house. All right. You're never late, Juan. You're always on time in our book, brother. Uh, but yeah, and that's awesome too. You'll have to send me like a screenshot of that or something. We'll post it around the groups and stuff, and that's pretty awesome that NFPA really recognize you guys as one of these leaders in the electrical industry, and it means a lot, that we can put these on, kind of get this different little bit of an angle for everyone, and like I think that's the biggest thing for me that really blew me away, sitting there looking at some of this stuff that we're doing, like with the myth of the week. There you go. Awesome. Dang, he looks young in that picture.
Yeah, he does. I just saw it sitting over. I was like, oh, I got to grab that real quick. But yeah, I'll
cool.
Get a picture of it and do it. It's pretty interesting. It basically says you need to know NFPA is teaming up with James Stalkup and Gray Boy Inc. That's the heading on it. Then it goes through and talks about a bunch of stuff. But that's for you, Jeremy, who said they never published our stuff.
What year was that?
Let me see if it's. Let me look. I'm not 100% sure. It might have a date in here.
Because I know it was in the 2005. I know there was a flyer in the 2005, and
this was 2002 when it started.
Okay.
There it is. That was a full flyer they sent out, and at that time, we had the book I was telling you about, all the calculations. They were selling the electrical calculation simplified, electric signs and outline lighting, electrical design 1 and 2 families, the red OSHA for general industry, and then you had the OSHA high voltage, and then you had the masters, the generators, and journeyman.
So when you held that up, you made the whole screen go dark because you have your background up there. So yeah, it kind of about right. It starts fading away the closer you get, but right about there you can kind of see it. But it's pretty.
I'll get a good shot of it. People. That's when Jeremy said, he never published your stuff. I said, you're crazy,
Yeah.
But
hey, we've heard it a lot. I mean, we had, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks in a row where our guest actually held up your dad's books, and that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
even Crystal was like, I don't want to break the chain, and we were like, oh, we were just blown away. We're like, everyone was on this kick to hold up the books, and they are really good reference for like that advanced learning stuff. So
like I say, NFPA, when they were getting in the publishing and everything, they could have went with anybody, and the reason they went with Dad, because he has the best books out there. I'll continue to say it, and I'll say this even further with the new illustrations that are coming out in color in the publications. I mean, it just really took the books to another level. Even Dad's like, wow, I wish I'd have had this back when I was teaching. He goes, these are incredible. I was like, yeah, well, it takes a lot of time to develop that stuff.
So I wanted to let everyone know about my meme. I made the meme this week, and it's about the apprentices quitting early, trying to clean up too early, and so I thought of a meme to try to slap them into shape that we don't start cleaning up till it's time to clean up. But
cool.
That's what the meme's about.
Cool. All right, let's roll it.
Yeah, and I caught some of the apprentices kind of slacking off, and it's like, hey, we could do this, and we could get this done, and we could get this done, and so a lot of times I try to, get them going, keep them moving until the end of the day. So I always say when I said that meme, it was like play a full game, play 60 minutes, play a full, play it, get a straight eight, and get your honest eight is what I say.
That's right. You got four
So,
quarters or 2 hours each.
yeah,
And then you get
exactly.
a halftime break for lunch.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. All the apprentices out there know I always give them a hard time. I know you remember that one where I was letting them use the microwave first
Yeah.
because I was mean to them all day. But it's a lot of fun to do this kind of stuff and joke around with everybody. Everyone has a good sense of humor. And, we joke around all the time on job site, and I'm always telling everyone, if you're taking me serious, you're taking me the wrong way because I like to have fun. I like to joke around, and I
Oh,
like
yeah.
to, you know, I'm a good
And that's
sport,
what I like about this podcast. I mean, we just come up with stuff all the time. They're just like, let's do a meme of the week because we had the meme group. Then we were like, let's do a wall of shame picture of the week. And this was after we already established doing a myth of the week, a topic of the week, a tool of the
Yeah.
week. And then you come and say, hey, I want to do a Willie quiz. I said, well, aren't we already doing
Yeah.
that with a question of the week? You got me doing. You go, no, this is trivia. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
hell, why not? Let's
Yeah.
do it. So,
No, that's funny. I think you're trying to say the walk of the dead, but or the wake of the dead, whatever. But yeah, it's true. Cleanup is really hard in the electrical industry. And Juan's over here. Yeah, exactly, Juan. We don't use brooms, man. I always say that's a weird looking hammer you got there. But I try to like keep our areas at least a little cleaned up, but at the same time, that's what GC stands for, General Cleanup. So
I always kept
but
the area clean. I always did.
it's to me, I'm a clean as you go kind of guy.
That's what I was
I
going to
always
say.
I always like to clean as you go, and then when you go to leave at the end of the day, it's already cleaned up, and you just leave. But sometimes that's a little rough, and I'm gonna have to always tighten up my areas just because it's really hard. We're so spread out with such a big area that you gotta constantly check everything. So
For
it's
sure.
it's a lot of work. But I thought about this week's myth of the week based on a lot of times we have these metal boxes. They're just sent out with number 12 pigtails. And I thought, you know what? That's not always good for every case. So,
Let's roll it.
run it.
It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right. So, this week we have the bonding jumper of a 30 amp circuit. And so you can see here we have a 30 amp overcurrent device. That's basically how you're going to size this bonding jumper. And that is your device that's installed in the metal enclosure. And so a lot of times guys think that number 12 pigtail is really no big deal and you could downsize it. And it's probably not really a big real world issue. It could be a weak link in there. I don't think it's really that big of a deal, but at the same time, there's a reason that table says number 10 30 amps. So technically that pigtail, if you're using a wire type equipment ground going to that enclosure, you need to tie it in as the same size as the ungrounded conductors that you're using in the box. There is exceptions to this, like number 10 is actually good all the way up to 60 amps. So you could have, this could be a 60 amp device and number 10 would be compliant. So It's something that I kind of think about from time to time. Um, yeah, and Juan tries to clean up, his particular job site or project, and yeah, big commercial projects. Juan, you got a good point. Nobody wants to see the electricians being slobs out there. Um, but and just to let everyone know, I am recording these as a podcast form. So if you guys like to listen to podcasts, I am producing these onto Spotify under Nat King Code. So you could go over there to Nat King Code on Spotify and produce the myth of the week. I haven't done a lot recently, but I'm gonna start kind of doing them like one a week or something, just so you guys can hear these. But it's cool because I really like listening to podcasts when I'm at work, and it's a lot of fun to kind of catch up on what's going on with the latest code cycles, stuff like that. But the reason that I wanted to run this so bad is that I think there's a lot of misconception, and it's funny because I've actually heard people say that this is actually a 60 amp breaker because 30 plus 30 equals 60, and so that would actually be incorrect. And so this is kind of cool that I do these, put them out there, so I'm not trying to just call people out, call them stupid, or say they don't know what they're talking about. I'm just trying to say if you're in making this kind of installation, then all your equipment grounding conductors need to be sized per the table in 250 122D, I believe you said, James.
No, 250 point 122 is the table. And
Yeah.
when you're looking at that, that deals with your equipment grounding conductors. But when you get into your bonding jumpers, you want to go over and look at 250.102T.
Oh, 102D.
D.
Okay. Yeah, I sorry for the
No worries.
slip there. But it was pretty cool how you did the research on that, and like I say, I knew that the table said number 10 was 30 amps up, and number 12 was 20 amps only.
No worries. I
You
got
could,
it.
you could do 15 amps with number 12 too, but I'm just saying it basically as far as maximum.
Yeah, and I'll go through this and show everything. One other thing, if uh, people that are watching this, if you're interested, Bill brought up something he was thinking about wanting to do, and I told him I could do it. But we're thinking about taking all the myths and putting them in a publication format and going through them and having a myth of the week book. If y'all are interested in that, just let us
Yeah,
know because
that would
that's
be
something we
awesome.
may be working on next year.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. So
It'll be mostly my suite installations, so
that'll be fun to do.
yeah.
Now, as you look at this is table 250.122, and this is where you're going through, and like you were saying, up to 60 amps, and it's telling you the size of the equipment grounding conductor based on this table. So anything up to 60 amps is a number 10, and like you were saying, if I had a 60 amp going over, number 10 would have been fine for the equipment
Yeah,
grounding conductor, which is perfectly fine. Okay.
yeah,
Now, as I started thinking about this a little bit more when you were asking me about this myth, I brought up a few things that we need to look at. And the first thing I said is when you start looking at the equipment bonding jumper, or some just call it bonding jumper, I don't care what you call it, but it's going to be an equipment bonding jumper because you're bonding everything together to the equipment. So it
yeah,
tells you here in D, it says the equipment bonding jumper on the load side, so we're on the load side of that overcut side, shall
yeah,
be sized in accordance with what? 254.122. Okay?
yeah,
So we're going to go back there and it's going to tell you if you've got a 30 amp there that you're going to need at least a number. Okay?
yeah,
There's no despairing about this. Now, one thing I did bring up still, I could take and go over there and say I had the number 12 running through. So this is something you have to think about also. So as I started looking at this, I said, let's let's take a look at the full body of this because there's some other things that you need to look at. Now,
yeah,
I look at table 310.16 at the bottom. It's a little hard to see, but they'll have an asterisk, and it's going to refer you to 240.4B, which is going to deal with your small conductor. Okay?
True.
Now, if I go over and I look at a 30 amp and I have small type conductor installation here, it's going to tell you need at least number 10 going over there. Is that correct? Sure.
Yep.
And if I go to a 25 amp, what does it say number 10? So I wanted everybody to see here just size based on the ungrounded phase conductor, because the equipment grounded conductor never has to be larger than the ungrounded phase. Okay?
True.
It'll always be the same size or smaller. So here is a good setup for the protection of the conductors where we're dealing with small type installation. Okay? Now, another thing I want to point out here. Now, this is something I was bringing up, and let's say I had some number 12s that were passing through. We had a box there. We're coming over, hitting a 30 amp device, and here I'm going over, and I've got number 12 passing through. Some would say, well, I can take and do a number 12 there because the number 12 passing through. No, you can't, because you're bonding the device, okay? And this,
and we did that one last week.
Yeah. And if you look here and you deal with the conductor fill, it says each conductor that originates outside the box and terminates or is spliced within the box shall be counted once. And each one that passes through the box without splice or termination shall be counted at once. And if you have a loop or coil unbroken, it's twice the minimum length, okay? And what I'm trying to point out here is when you get into this conductor fill, this is what we're talking about. Then it says a conductor, no part of which leaves the box shall not be counted. So what's happening here is it's not leaving the box, but it's still in it, that bonding jumper, but you don't have to count it. But what size is that bonding jumper going to be? Okay. So now let's look at this. Now let's go to the device itself. It says, for each yoke or strap containing one or more devices or equipment, you got to count 2 conductors shall be done. But it also says it shall be made for each yoke or strap based on the largest conductor connected to a device or equipment. So what I'm trying to tell you, you got to count the conductor, what is connected to it, and what's going to be connecting, tying that in, is a number 10. So therefore, you would have to have a number 10 there because you're going to count the conductors that are connected to it. Okay? So for here, if I had a 2 hots going over there, you got 2 hots. What are you counting? 2 conductors, and that's what's connecting to it. So if I come off of there and I make a pigtail or something, what's gonna connect to the device? A number 10. You see what I'm saying? So you got to take and you've got to look at everything that's in the code, and that's why I was saying go back and what you're allowed to do as far as sizing the conductors, and then you're going into a box there. How do you count those conductors for the box? And we'll show you, even in our calculations where we're doing box fill calculations, we'll tell you the largest conductor in there for the equipment ground that would be going to that device is a number 10. But if it's a bonding jumper, you don't have to count it. We have those little design tips in our publication. So, because I've heard this myth before. That's why I knew what we were getting into. But, being out in the listening to the people out in the industry and ask these type of questions, that's why we put those type of design tips in there. And, one of the things that everybody always liked about our publication is we have code loops in there. Well, sometimes we have a lot of code loops in there, and so people look at, what the hell is that doing in there? Well, when you go over there and look and you go in and read our little tip on the side, then you understand why we're giving you those loops, because we're basically debunking some type of myth that people perpetuated out there that you actually had to do. Okay?
Absolutely. And I could tell you read my Nat King Code mission statement, because it blows me away where these myths get perpetuated from. Like you wouldn't believe how many times I hear, "Oh, you can't have a raceway in a raceway." Oh, look, we have a first time ever joining us, John Reitz. Awesome, man. Yeah, dude, awesome, man. John's a instructor and awesome joining us,
Oh,
man.
yeah. Matter of fact, one of the things I'm going to do tonight, because I had somebody, I've had a couple of people wanted me to explain how to go in and do the, what did you say? You lost me. So you're saying that the bonding jumper is not, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not counted. Bonding jumpers, pigtails, things like that are not counted. But when you get to an equipment grounding conductor, the equipment grounding conductor up to 4, you only have to count 1. Anything over 4. So say I had let's say I had 14 conductors in there. Okay. Well, if I took 14 conductors, you take 4 of them, count as 1. What you have left is 10. You want to take them at 0.25%. So you take that at 0.25 and then add that on to it. Okay.
Yeah, you're
But
talking about the equipment grounding conductor, not
equipment grounding conductor. That's what I said. The bonding jumper, you don't count it. It doesn't go to the box field count. And if you go and look in our publication stuff, you'll see that we call out the bonding jumpers and everything like that. We even do one where we show where you have a dome fixture, and the dome contains the fixture wires, and you don't have to count them. But if you don't have the dome, you have to count them.
awesome. Welcome for joining. Thanks for joining us. David Englehart's in the house. What's up,
That's
David?
right, a pigtail. That's why I was saying a bonding jumper, pigtail, anything like that, you don't count. Okay.
Mr. E is in the house.
All right. Now,
Mr.
like I
E
was
and
saying,
Mr. G.
so I had some questions people were been asking me to explain the 125% rule of thumb. And one of the things that we've done over the years, it doesn't matter what we get into. We have, when you combine with Dad and I, you're 70, 75 years experience instruction out there on the code panels and the code or the NFPA committees and stuff like that, and teaching for NFPA and going to all these big companies and doing instruction work. We hear a lot of things, and we've developed over the years a certain teaching style that we've learned from experience. And one of the things that we've done, it's sort of like if I was doing grounding and bonding. We teach two parts of grounding and bonding. We teach the line side and the load side. Now there's a lot of instructors that teach it that way. And basically what that means is anything that's on the line side, what are you using? Table 250.66 and table 250.102C1. If I'm on the load side, I'm using table 250.66.
Service entrance and
That's right.
service entrance and supply side bonding.
Sure. Now, like if I'm doing box fill, I teach 2 principles. I teach same size conductors and different size conductors, and I'd also do that for raceways. Well, when we got into size and overcurrent protection devices, one of the things that we learned is we started figuring out anytime you're sizing an overcurrent device, we take anything at 125% or less, we go up to the next standard size. Any percentage above that, it tells you not to exceed the calculated load. So therefore, you've got to drop down to the next standard size as your starting point. Now, another thing I'll point out there, if I go over to transformers, it'll say C note 1. It gives you the option to go up or down when it says that, because it says shall be permitted. And then when I go to phase converters and I look at 455.7B2, because of that type of fixed load that they're doing, they tell you have to protect the conductors. Now, when it's telling you got to protect the conductors, therefore that means the overcurrent device has to be sized above the conductor size. Okay?
Right.
Now, that's the only 2 places I know in the code where it differs from this rule of thumb I'm going to teach today. Okay?
Nice. Oh, so dude, I didn't even cheat and try to figure out what the topic was, but
well, y'all are going to like this. I'm going to show how to do all this and explain it in detail. And I pulled up some NEC sections for everybody to follow. So let me go ahead and cue this up and let's get this topic going.
Hey, I think you'll like my new topic of the week song. I'm working on it. I should have it ready.
I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
All right.
All right. Now, when you go in and you start looking for sizing your overcurrent devices, it's for the protection of conductors. And when you go over and you look at 240.4b, this is your starting point. And what it says here, it says overcurrent devices rated 800 amps or less. Now, let me go through this and I'm going to explain what this says. And I'm only going to look at the first paragraph here. I'm not going to get into everything because I don't have a lot of time. But it says, the next higher standard overcurrent device rating shall be permitted to be used. So that means I'm going to go up to the next standard size. This right here, when I'm out teaching people, I tell them right here, put 125% here. Now, I want to point something out. There's also in parentheses there, it says above the ampacity of the conductors being protected. Now, let me explain what this means here. If I go over, let's say I calculate a load that comes up to 58 amps, okay? Now, if I go over and we're using 75 degree C terminals on everything I'm doing here, if I go over to table 310.16 and I come down the 75 degree C column, the next amperage rating above that 58 amps is 65 amps, and I go across, it tells me it's a number 6 conductor, okay?
Right.
Now, what that's doing, I'm protecting the load there, but it also says in parentheses here, it says I can protect above the ampacity of the conductors. So I can go look at table 240.6a. If I'm just protecting the load, the next size above that 58 amps is a 60 amp overcurrent device. But if I'm protecting the conductors, which 240.4b gives me the permission to do here, then I could look at that table 240.6a. The next size above the conductors is a 70 amp overcurrent device.
Right.
Okay. So what they're basically recognizing here is in the code, there's going to be spots in there when you're looking at that table 310.16 where it does not match up to an amperage value compatible with the overcurrent device. So therefore, you're protecting the load or the conductor at this point. Okay?
Which you have there in table 246A, right?
Yes. Yeah. Those are standard ampere ratings.
Hey, question, like stupid question for you.
Yeah.
In those standard ampere ratings, is there a 601?
I think there is. I've never seen one, but apparently
I just wanted to know why they did that because I think there's a 601 in there, and I was interested to see.
I'll give you an example of something. Let's say that I'm looking at 240.4C. This is overcurrent devices rated over 800 amps. I'm not doing it in this presentation, but I'm going to explain this. If I calculate there, it says the overcurrent protection device cannot exceed the ampere rating of the conductors. So say I do a calculation and my conductors and everything come up to 920 amps after I parallel. It says it can't exceed that value. I would drop down to the next standard size, which is a 900 amp. But if you go over to table 240.6a, there's no 900 amp listed in there. It goes to 800 to 1,000, but I can still purchase a 900 amp.
Right.
Okay? So that's just an example at that point.
Okay.
Now,
no, that's good. All right.
Now, this is a basic calculation that everybody is familiar with. Okay? And I want to point this out because when you look at our publications, we're very specific on some of the things that we address here. But if you look at the very top of that illustration, it says rounding up or down of an overcurrent protection device. What does it say?
Okay. The catch-22, which is more important, protecting the conductor, the device,
Protecting
or
the load. To me, it's protecting the load, but you still protecting the load when you protect the conductor.
Yeah, I mean, technically you're protecting the equipment, and that's like technically your personal property, kind of. But
Mm-hmm.
it is a catch-22, Mr. G.
I don't disagree with that, and that's why I'm saying it doesn't match up. That's why it's written that way, and that was my main drive there, is to explain what that parenthesis means. Because a lot of people don't know what it means unless you have somebody explaining it to you. You wouldn't.
There's a lot of people in the live this week, and thanks everyone for joining us. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm learning myself.
All right, now if you look at the branch circuit load here, we're going to give you some values here. It's 23.5 amps. We're also going to tell you it's a continuous load, and we're using 75 degree C terminals. And we put all that information there in the formula requirements and the known values. Now, when I go to calculate this, just on a branch circuit, I'll be looking at 210.19A18, and it's going to tell you if it's a continuous load to take it at 125%. So I'll take 23.5 amps at 125%. That's going to give me 29.375 amps. And then I go over, look at table 240.6A. The next size up above that is a 30 amp overcurrent protection device. Okay? Pretty simple. Easy. Everybody understands how to do this calculation. Okay?
Right.
Now, right after
and you would be not using a number 12 bonding. No,
yeah. Well, watch this. Now, this is where you get in and you start looking at different percentages at this point. And there's a reason 240.4G in the heading, it says overcurrent protection for what? Specific conductor applications.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, it's going to tell me at this point, it's going to reference me to table 240.4G. Now, when you go in and you look at our calculations and we start showing you the steps to go through it, we'll have like step one where you're going to see table 240.4G, and then you'll see 430.6A1, and then you'll look at table 430.247 through 250, and we start going through this. But what I want to point out, I'm only going to do two of them at this point because there's parts here. But if you go down and you look at motor and motor control circuit conductors, it tells you to, It tells you to go look at Article 430 and look at all the parts it tells you to go reference, depending on what you're doing. So this is telling me you better have an idea how to apply all these percentages, where to get the amperage values and everything to apply those percentages. Then if I go up and let's say I look at air conditioning, refrigeration equipment, circuit conductors, look at there, and it says Article 440, and it's got three parts to go look at. So a lot of people do that, but you don't have to. And that has been one of the misconceptions. People just always say, oh, you just go up to the next standard size. The code doesn't say that. If I can go down to the next standard size, but I can even go below that if it'll allow that motor to start and run and hold that inrush current.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah, Juan, that's a good point that a lot of people do say that. We actually might have to run that for a myth of the week too.
Yeah, that would be a good myth. And I'll tell you one, Ryan Jackson said that you go up to the next standard size. He says no matter what. No, you don't. And you know, Ryan actually did a video to try to prove me wrong on what I said here. I was on the NEC Live, and as he was doing, he goes, well, why wouldn't you just go up to the next standard size?
Yeah.
I mean, well, because it's cheaper to go down if it'll hold that inrush current. I mean, and I'll tell you, any good contractor will use the lower size if it'll hold. They're not going to spend more money than they have to.
Yeah.
And as an inspector, if I'm going out there And I've been told, oh, well, you got to go up to the next standard size. And he says, no, I can use this. And the inspector's trying to fail him. The inspector's going to lose that argument because it specifically states otherwise. But I'm going to prove all that today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah,
because
it's cool. That's why we're here, brother. That's why we're here.
I know.
Loving it.
I love going in proving these things because Bill knows how I am. I'm a stickler on the language of the code.
Yeah.
And I'm the type that has always believed you got to look at all parts of the code. You cannot just take one thing in the code and say it applies there. There's other things that apply in the code also. And there's a reason maybe a certain definition was written a certain way. And if you take it literally, you're going to screw up because if you go look in other parts of the code, that would not line up correctly. Okay. Absolutely. And that's why we do this. Okay. Now, let's take a look here. Now, the first thing when I get in and I start looking at my percentages and stuff on how I'm going to size my overcurrent protection device, this is where you start is over in 430.52C1 to get this percentage. Now, what it says here, and if anybody disagrees what I'm saying here, you can comment on this, but what it says, a protected device that has a rating or setting, now listen to what it says, not exceeding the value calculated. So it's telling me right here when I go use that table, if I do my calculation, I cannot exceed the value based on that percentage. So I'm automatically permitted to do what? Drop down to the next standard size. Now, in the 2023, right here below this, you're going to see A. Okay? It says once I've done that calculation without doing anything else, I'm automatically permitted to go up to the next higher standard rating size. Okay? Yeah. That's the next size. And when you look at our publications, we start off minimum, next size, and maximum size. And I'll show all this in just a minute. But,
well, and to validate your point on that, just because you drop down does not mean that your publication is saying that's the maximum size that you can't exceed.
No, it doesn't. And let me explain this. When you go look at the table and you look at table 430.52C1, the heading says maximum, but it says maximum because that's the maximum percentage permitted for that table. Okay? It's not a minimum or anything. You cannot exceed the percentages that are given in there unless there's some other language in that section that permits that, which is what we're about to look at. So that's a maximum percentage. Once you calculate it, you have established a starting point, which we refer to as the minimum. That's your minimum starting point. Then, if it doesn't start due to inrush current, then I look at 430.52C1A, and it automatically permits me to go up to what? The next standard size. Okay? But let's say that it still doesn't start. Right here, you pick up B, and let's just say I'm doing an inverse time circuit breaker. The next size also does, that's exactly correct. It has nothing to do with B and C at all. That is correct. Now, if you look at this, let's just say I'm doing an inverse time circuit breaker, and I look at B3 and I come down, and I'll just do one like the problem we're going to do. Let's say that I have a 50 horsepower, 460 volt, 3-phase design B squirrel cage motor, and I'm sizing the inverse time circuit breaker. Okay. Now, when I go over and I look at table 430.250 for a 3-phase, and I pick up 460 volts, come across, pick up 50 horsepower, it's going to tell me it's good for 65 amps. Now, if I look at table 430.52C1 for squirrel cage and an inverse time circuit breaker, it tells me I can take that at 250%. So if I take 65 amps times 250%, that's going to give me 162.5 amps. But it says I can't exceed the calculated value, so I'm going to drop down to the next standard size, which is 150 amps. Okay. Now, if it won't start due to inrush current, then if I look at 430.52C1A, it automatically allows me with doing no further calculation to go up to the next standard size, which would be 175 amp. Now, if I look at this B3, it says if I have a full load current of 100 amps or less, I can calculate it at 400%. But look what it says: it shall be permitted to be increased, but shall in no case exceed. So that means once I do the calculation, I have to drop down to the next standard size. So if I take 65 amps times 400%, that's going to give me 260 amps. I drop down, look at table 240.6a, the next size below that's 250 amp. So I have a range here of 150 to 250 amps, okay, of the calculation. But the point that I want to bring up here is I did 250%, I did 400%, and each one of those calculations said I could not exceed the calculated load, the value that I just calculated, okay? And every bit of this that I'm showing right here, it specifically says it in the text: shall not exceed, shall not exceed. Okay. Now, looking at the calculation, if I come over here, like I was saying, if I pick up an inverse time circuit breaker, I pick up squirrel cage, come across, it tells you the percentage was good for what? 250% for that table. And if you look at the top of the heading, it says what? Maximum rating or setting for the calculation. But this is the maximum percentage for that. You can't exceed that. So you have to have a starting point, which we just happen to call minimum, because you're also allowed to go up to a NEC size. But don't worry, I'm going to show you something when we get to AC units and prove why we say minimum, because they do it on the AC units too. But I'll show you that in just a little bit. All right, now let's look at this. Oh, well, yeah, I am too. As a matter of fact, we have a really good setup in our generator, transformer, motor, compressor book, where we get into all of that with the theory and dealing with magnetics. We get into all the induction and all of that stuff, capacitance. We go through every bit of that. And we even got a point where when you get into troubleshooting, we start discussing things like that when you start doing your motor controls and transformers and stuff. Okay. Now, here's what I was talking about. Now, let me explain something. You're going to see in the illustration, we're pointing the nameplate, we're telling you 62 amps, okay? That is the nameplate of 62 amps. The only time you're going to be looking at using that nameplate amperage is when you're going to be sizing the overload protection. And if you go over and look at 430.6A2, it tells you that for overload protection. But now, if I'm going to size the conductors in the overcurrent device, it tells you in 430.6A1 to use the tables 430.247 through 250. Okay. So in this case, we're going to give you some known values here. We have a 50 horsepower motor, 3-phase, 460 volt, design B, and we're going to size an inverse time circuit breaker. If you come over here, look at your exercise problem, like I was saying a while ago, you had 65 amps, you had 250%. Take that, gives you 162.5 amps. The next size below that's 150 amp, and the next size above, if it doesn't start to inrush current, was 175. Now, a lot of people I've instructed over the years, when I show them this concept and how to go about remembering how to do this, they have no problems when they go into their testing and everything to take this. We have engineers that have come to our courses just to learn these concepts of how to come in and do these type of calculations. And as you can see, this is a very simple calculation. The only thing you had to remember is the starting point and all the sections. So if I was looking at this and I was in step 1, what would I be looking at? I'd look at 240.4G. That refers me over for specific conductor application. You have 430.6A1 that tells me to use the tables. Since it's 3-phase, I use table 430.250. I drop down to get my percentage. That's where I look at 430.52C1 and table 430.52C1. If you know all them sections, you know where to get the information. Okay. Now, this is the one where I dropped down and I said, okay, if it still doesn't start, I looked at uh, 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 B3, and B3 told me I could take that at 400% for a 100 amp or less motor. And I take it at 400%, it's 260 amps, says I can't exceed the calculated load. The next size below that is what? 250.
Yeah, and just for all the people out there, like all the apprentices that are watching, this is how you learn how to dissect these questions. Like when you're going into these exam questions, is you can look at this illustration, you know we're talking about what? A motor. A motor, you're going to find that at 430. That's the first place you're going to go is 430. So, you know, that's kind of what I like about your illustrations, James, is it kind of teaches you how to dissect these questions in the exam and gives you that confidence.
Well,
Where
sure.
you can go in there and you could see what they're talking about, and you're like, well, the first thing they're asking is about a motor, so I'm going to go to 430 because whatever they're talking about is in 430.
Sure. And just look at, as an example, look at that controller unit where the inverse time circuit breakers in it and all the controls and everything. I'll tell you, go look at all the other publications out there. You're not going to see this type of detail in the illustrations.
Sure looks like a feeder to me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I've already proved it. Well, hey, that's a good example of taking a term that's in the NEC and misapplying it.
Yeah.
Like what he was telling me here, he come in, he said, if I leave that pound board and I go over that control unit over there to that inverse time circuit breaker, that's a feeder. And I said, no, it isn't. Because if you go in and you look at other parts of the code and you look at 430.24 and 430.62A, where it specifically deals with feeders, it says it has to be what? Two or more. So how could it be a feeder if you're feeding one? And that's, once again, somebody taking a definition and misapplying and misinterpreting the application of it.
Well, and it says the final overcurrent device, which that to me I could possibly need some work, because who's to say that primary panel is not the final overcurrent device, and then you have a motor branch circuit control in there in that branch circuit.
Well, sure.
So I think that's where that definition of branch circuit, different branch circuits, like you could say, hey, that's a motor branch circuit that originates from the final overcurrent device, which is at that panel there, and then everything in there is all that motor branch circuit.
Well, that would defeat. Wouldn't that defeat his purpose of what he was saying? Because if what he's saying is true, you don't even need that definition for motor branch circuit if that's the case.
True.
But the reason that motor branch circuit is in there, like I've been saying, because it says for an outlet, it's where you're cording plug and connecting something that has a motor to it. It's not going over to an outlet. This is not going to an outlet in this illustration.
It's really hard to show an outlet in that illustration, I think.
Well, we're gonna find out in 2026 on that. But anyway, now let me show you something here. Now, this is where you get into AC units, and let's see what it says. It says the motor compressor branch circuit, short circuit, excuse me, and ground fault protected device shall be capable of carrying the starting current of the motor. It says a protected device having a rating or a setting. Now look at what it says again. Not exceeding 175%. Okay? And then watch this. It goes down and I pick up exception 1. This is something new. Without doing any further calculation, it allows me to go up to the next standard size. And then exception 3 says if it still won't start, it says I'm permitted to increase it, but in no case shall it exceed what? 225%. Now, let me ask you this.
Hey, I do want to know this. So on maximum overcurrent device that's on the nameplate, is that based on 225% or is that based off 175%?
No, it's 225. And what I'm trying to tell you, if you go look at how many times you've gone out and seen the AC unit, look at the nameplate, and it has a minimum and maximum size overcurrent device.
Yeah.
Okay, where did they get that from? How did they determine? It's based on these percentages here.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like best about it is I was told, oh, you can't do that. You can't say minimum. But yet the manufacturers and everybody call it minimum. Mm-hmm. And that's been my whole argument. That's how come we say minimum, next, and maximum size, because you got to have a starting point somewhere that is the minimum size. Okay? Now, you can go below that.
And the highest is the maximum, but if the motor starts and you don't need 150 amp, don't you think it'd be better at like 125 amp?
If it'll allow it, sure.
Yeah.
And trust me, the contractor's going to do that. He's got every right to do that. And he's not going to go up to the next standard size when it say he put a 175, but he could put a 150 or 125. Which one do you think he's going to put on there?
Dude,
the cheaper one.
You could run into some frame sizes on the 150s or 175s that is totally different frame size. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it won't fit. Like if you have like an eye line, it won't fit on certain sides of it. You might not have room on the left hand side or whatever, and the dead front might not fit with that frame size. So there's a lot of factors to look into on that.
Sure. And here's the same calculation. I'm not changing anything but the percentages. Now, when you're looking at the AC unit, since it comes as a unit, you're going to take the nameplate amperage. So in this case, we got a compressor load of 19 amps and a condenser load of 1.5. Well, it says the first part of the calculation, it can't exceed 175%. So you'll take the largest motor, of course, which is a compressor at 19 amps, and then you'll add the 1.5 for the condenser on there. That's going to give you 34.75 amps. It says I can exceed, so therefore I have to drop down the next standard size, which is a 30 amp. Okay. Now, if it still won't start, if I want to go up and look at, I could go up to the next standard size, which is a 40, but the maximum is going to be the same. But if I took no, you can get a 35 amp, I think, can't you now? I think you can get a 35 amp. I have to look at that. No, I don't think you can. I think it's a 25. I don't think they have a 35. I have to look into that. But if you take 19 amps at 225%, add the 1.5, that gives you 44.25 amps. Excuse me. It says I can exceed the calculated load. The next size below that is a 40 amp. Okay. Now, my whole point behind this is at this point, anything that I take at 125% or less, I'm going up. But once I start getting above those percentages, you're looking at the language, and the language is very specific to say that you don't exceed the calculated load when you size at a higher percentage. And that's why when you look at 240.4G, it says specific conductor applications.
Yeah. You know, the one thing I was really kind of disappointed with that illustration.
What's that?
You forgot to draw the outlet.
Yeah, because there isn't one.
No, awesome. No, that was great, dude. I love it, man. That's great, dude. Everyone learned from that one, man. I really appreciate you.
Well, doing this all these years and everything, you learn concepts and stuff. And that is one that we learned, and it was by accident, really, because what happened was I was editing the calculation publication. We had to cover every calculation in code, all theory, everything. And as I started doing the overcurrent protection devices, I started noticing that he was dropping down. I started reading the language. And as I kept going through it, after I got through the book, I went in there and I said, hey, I want to ask you something, Dad. I said, anytime we're sizing anything at 125% or less, we go up to the next standard size. He goes, that's right. I said, any percentage above that, we drop down, except for in phase conversion at that time. because even a transformer you had to drop down till they put that note in there. And
Uh-huh.
he goes, I'm not sure. Let me look at that. And he started checking everything. He goes, you know what? He goes, we're going to start teaching it that way. And
Nice.
that's how it happened. You as you do things over and over and over, you start learning different concepts. And that's one of the concepts I teach all apprentices, journeymen, masters, engineers, instructors, inspectors, all the places I've been. And I actually did a class for BPI for all the inspectors, and I gave that exact thing. And one of the guys, he goes, he raised his hand. He goes, I don't know if that's true or not. I said, well, let me finish the class, or anywhere in the class that you disagree, let me know after the class is over. I said, what do you think? You do it that way now? And he goes, well, he goes, I'm going to have to agree with everything he said. He goes, I'd never thought of it that way. He goes, this is one of the best classes I've ever been to. He said, I've learned more in this class than I've learned on calculations ever. He said, just by applying a simple concept that you can apply and remember from now on.
Well, yeah, and I really like the way, I think you did it on NEC Live, where you did a 9 amp, like a 9 amp
I did.
scenario. And then you did like a 9 amp, and then you went up to like, I think you went up to like a 800 or 850 or something. And it was crazy how you went from that wide range and it applied both ways. Like it could be more of a blanket concept. And I think me and James have been real advocates of trying not to just make these blanket terms that just apply to everything, because it's really hard to explain in the code, in the NEC. Like if you could find these math formulas, these triangles, I always call them like the Pythagorean triangles, that you can find that make everything true, then that's awesome. But it's just, they're really rare. They're really rare, especially in the code. You can't just make like a blanket statement like, oh, well, Nat King code says that all devices that are 30 amp need a number 10 bond. It's like, well, I never said that, because it's determined off the overcurrent device. So it's really hard, because there's a lot of times where I could not think. I was sitting there driving to work. I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, where is a 30 amp? Where are you going to have a 30 amp rated device? I mean, you could have a 30 amp rated disconnect and run number 12s to it and, fuse it to 20 amp, and then feed a 20 amp equipment. You'd only need a number 12 bond. But you start running into some problems, because now if you run, you have a 30 amp disconnect, you run number 10s to it, you put 20 amp fuses in there, and now you technically only need a number 12 bonding jumper. But then if all of a sudden them fuses are changed to 25 amp for
Well,
like
you need
a
a
larger
number
unit,
10.
yeah, so it's kind of like, I was sitting there thinking about it, I'm like, I was like, I mean, I'm not saying that, an inspector could fail you for that, but yeah, I just think it would be almost kind of a better install if you just stay consistent with whatever conductor. Like, so just take this for example, like if you come into that disconnect, let's just say you come in with a number 10, like you say you come in with a 10-3 MC cable into like a 30 amp rated disconnect, and then you just downsize the number 12 out to the unit, because that's all you need is number 12. Like technically you probably could, based on the load, if it's like only a 20 amp load, you have it on a 20 amp overcurrent device and you're fused lower, technically you could do a number 12, but at the same time you have a number 10 entering that disconnect. So it was pretty interesting. I mean, to me personally, I don't see why you would try to complicate it by being like, well, over here I could go with the number 12, then over there I could go with the number 10. It just seems like you're complicating things for no real good reason.
Sure, we even take it a step further in the generator transformer motor compressor publication, because you may be doing that calculation, but you may be in a high altitude. What do you do if you're in a high altitude? We show you how to do that calculation too. And I don't think there's any other publications even show you how to do that.
Oh, look who showed up. Oh, brother. Oh, the Sooner. The Sooner showed up, man. Oh, dude. I thought you were gonna be here last week, man. Just jump all over the Red River Rumble, man. That was a good game.
Kick him off the podcast.
I know, it's like blocked. All right, I'm starting his comment now, but yeah, you're blocked, Andrew. No, but it was so funny. Yeah, like yeah.
I was partly okay.
Yeah, no, that was a really awesome game. Really a lot of fun. Like, I mean, there's ones that the Buffs lost that I don't think we should have lost. Last week, but
them two teams are going to play again. That's going to happen in the Big 12 championship. Whoever wins is probably going to the playoffs. So. One game doesn't make a season. I was waiting for it.
Yeah,
I'll give it up.
I was expecting him to show up last week. I was like, oh man, here it comes.
I really thought we were going to beat y'all 49-0 like we did last year. But
oh, no points. You didn't have the no points argument this year.
I got to have something to come back with.
Yeah, that one was funny.
Yeah, my best friend's Oklahoma Sooner. He went there, so we're always giving each other crap.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I actually lived down there in OKC for a while, so I always have fun. I didn't have any college teams that I liked in Oklahoma when I was down there, so like I'm not a Oklahoma Sooner fan or a Longhorn fan, like either or. But I wasn't even really a Buffs fan. Like I've never really been a Buffs fan, but they're doing good. I enjoy seeing them play, so it's been a lot of fun. But I guess we're going to the tool, right?
You ready? All right, here we go.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by Electricians Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
So this week I have a really cool tool that I've been trying to take a look at. I haven't actually used one of these yet. I'm really interested, but I'm actually basically doing the review. You still have DeWalt snowblower up top. Like, no, that is not a DeWalt snowblower. But anyway, this is a electronic Milwaukee fish tape. It's actually battery powered, and I hear these things are really awesome because you can push them through the conduit, and you can stop them. You can have control of them. Like when somebody says stop, you can just pull the trigger off. Like it's not like you're just sitting there pushing until you hear it, whatever. So I'm really interested to try one of these. I'm actually going to try to see if I can get my hands on one of these and see if I can actually put it through. And we'll actually probably have a follow-up tour review on this. But I'm one of those dinosaurs that has never used an electronic, never in my career ever, 27 years have I ever used a battery-powered fish tape. So I'm really anxious to try one of these. This was actually sent to me by one of my apprentices who told me to get out of the Stone Age and try some new technology. So I'm really anxious to try to use one of these, but it looks awesome. It looks like it works really well. And like I say, one of the new Milwaukee tools, I think that's why it's one of the new Milwaukee tools. Looks like Andrew's saying that they played like crap the last quarter. Yeah, I actually thought Texas was going to win that game. They went down, scored a field goal, and then next thing you know, you guys went down at the last minute. And
I thought we were going to win it. There'll be another one. It'll be fun. What's the pull force on it? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to really answer that one. I know that it's gonna have the truck, so my nickname's the truck. So it's gonna have the truck battery assist program on it. So I will actually be adding battery assist to it. Yeah, Andrew.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah, that's not good.
wow.
Boom.
Oh yeah.
Fire.
Boom.
Boom. Boom. But yeah, that's really awesome. So I will kind of get back to everyone on that. I will actually try to see if I get my hands on one of those and try to see if we could use it, and maybe I might even do a video. I think weren't we gonna do a video with Jake Riddle back in the day on one of those? I think I already did that tour review. I was gonna show it actually in action because Jake Riddle actually did it in action, and he didn't want to come on or whatever. But it is what it is. Like we'll just keep trying to keep pushing forward and bring you guys some good stuff every week. You know.
All right. Ready to do your question of the week? See what you
Dude,
got
this
for me?
one's easy, dude. They're all easy. Dude, they're slam dunks for you, man.
Well, let's see. Direct bear races.
So I will tell everyone out there, Chat GTP answered B, expansion fittings.
That's D.
Nailed it! I knew you would. That was an
That's
easy.
easy. Yeah, that wasn't even.
Oh yeah,
That was child's play there.
I know.
All right, let's do
But at the
Willie
same
Quiz.
time-
I'm excited. I'm ready to see what the
All right.
trivia is this week.
I'm gonna get you.
I'm sure everybody's excited for this. All right, let me go and cue that.
It's easy. Alright, so the first one is definitely a slam dunk for you. Guarantee you're going to nail this one. It's so easy. And
We'll see.
everyone out in the chat, feel free to jump in and answer. Like I say, when I looked this up, I was like, oh, James is going to get this one super easy. Like,
Right.
it's not even.
Just so everybody knows, I got 2 for 3 last week. I'm on a roll
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and set you up on your first one.
All right. What year was the NFPA officially founded? A, 1895, B, 1896, C, 1897, D, 1898, or E, they were never officially founded. Good luck, everyone. All right, so far we don't have any answers in the chat, but I'm telling you, I know you're gonna nail this because you got this one. This is you, bro.
It's a trick question.
It could
It is.
be. It could be a trick.
I'm waiting for everybody. I will see if anybody jumps in because I'm going to tell you what I think. And I know what a lot of people are going to think, but I don't want to give my answer away yet.
Okay. Well, so far we don't have anybody in the chat, so if you guys want to chime in the chat and try to see, initially I had my own thoughts because I've answered this on trivia before, and I don't know. I mean,
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think. The first code was 1897. Okay.
Okay.
That's when he did it. But actually, it was the year before when it was actually founded and called the National Fire Protection Association. And that was 1896. So I'm going with B.
All right. we have a answer from James of B. And that would be correct. You and Juan Gonzalez win it, this question. So I knew it was a slam dunk. I knew you'd get it. I just thought it was a little bit tricky because, like I say, when I did the trivia questions, all the answers come up 1897. So
yeah, well, that's because that was the first code. It wasn't when it was officially founded. It was the year before. And if I'm not mistaken, I remember reading something this a long time ago. But I think when they did it, the meeting and everything they held, it was in New York when they did it.
Yep. No, you're absolutely nailed it.
Is that right? Okay,
awesome.
I thought that was right.
Yeah. No, you're 1 for 1 so far. So awesome. Off to a good start.
Oh, I hate
now, this one might get you. All right. So, which two code making panels are responsible for switches and motors? Is it A, code making panel 7 and code making panel 11? B, code making panel 2 and code making panel 10. C, code making panel 9 and code making panel 11. D, code making panel 7 and code making panel 9. Or E, I didn't even put any of the code making panels that are responsible for this in these answers. Good luck, everyone. All right, well, Juan is up in here, and he says New York. New York was what gave him the answer on the last one. So awesome, thanks, Juan. So what do you got, bro?
I think I'm right on this. I'm not 100%, but I'm gonna go with C.
C, 9 and 11. So we're gonna see if we have any more come in. We have B, code making panel 2 and code making panel 10 from Juan Gonzalez. Awesome. Thanks for your answer, Juan. So
I
James,
definitely know it's not B because they deal with Article 210, 220 and stuff. They don't deal with the 400 series.
Yeah, so you are correct on that, James. And you are correct on this one. It is 9 and 11. You freaking nailed it. You went 2 for 2.
I don't even care if I miss the next one now. I got 2 out of 2. I'm going.
Right. I thought I was going to get you on that one. I got one. But, you know, like I say, this was really fun to do because I thought always code making panel 7 dealt with motors, but I was wrong. But all right, so this is for the win. Actually, this is worth 2 points for Juan, so he could beat James. But which vehicle has a higher percentage of fires? Electric, petrol, or like I guess you would say like either gas or diesel. So like a petroleum-based vehicle, or are they equal? They each have the same risk, and this is based off per capita, how many is actually in circulation. So, good luck, everyone. So, I don't know if you know this, James, but I just made a new rule where the third question is actually worth 3 points. So, Juan could actually win. He gets this.
Bullshit.
I'm just kidding. But this one I found really interesting. So,
Well,
Juan Gonzalez is going with gas powered. Very
I'm
brave,
thinking
sir.
about this. I don't think they have enough data yet for electric, and I don't think there's that many out there because I would think you would start to have more problems as the cars got older and they're so new to it now. So,
Right?
but then again, you know, you could look at this both ways because you could have it could be electrical wiring in the automobile. It could be a lot of things that cause it.
Well, I think you have to have like some kind of license to work on electric vehicles now,
Yeah,
just because it's so dangerous. But I mean,
I'm gonna go with
it's kind of
B.
B.
It's B or C,
Well,
how you look at it.
yeah. I mean, I really when I first looked at this, I thought the numbers were really fudged a lot. You are correct, and Juan gets a point. So you went 3 for 3 tonight. You nailed it, sir. They say that gas-powered vehicle is 20% more likely to have a fire than electric vehicle. I do think the numbers are fudged. I mean, they sell an electric vehicle with a fire extinguisher in the vehicle.
I know.
I mean, they don't do that on any gas powered vehicle. I mean, to me, I think there's going to be more numbers coming out in the future, but.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, I just didn't think there was enough numbers there and enough cars for it to be that
I mean,
big.
per capita, I would actually say the answer should be electric vehicles because out of the amount of gas-powered vehicles that's on the road versus the amount of electric vehicles on the road, I bet you it's 10-1. But for electric, that's my opinion. But I'm just going off what I researched. They said it's 20 to 30% more likely for a gas vehicle to have a fire than an electric vehicle. But that's just the statistics. I don't know. I mean, like I say, I try to grab my stuff from NFPA and from different sources so that I'm actually, trying to come up with something that's based like with what we deal with, which National Electric Code, stuff like that, But, yeah, and dude, Juan, this is the first time James went 3 for 3. This is the first time James actually won, but Juan was right there too. I should have spent more time.
Thank you, brother. That's 5 of 6 in the last 2 weeks. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I should have spent more time trying to fool James. I'm usually pretty good at it. I can't believe you got the code making panel one. Like, I worked really hard on that one. That's all 2023.
I guess. It's not that I guessed.
I know. I was like, he said code making panel 7. I was like, ooh, there's no code making panel 7 in here,
I knew code making panel 9 was, so it was either that one or the last one. And I just and I started thinking, well, 11's closer, so it should be right after that. So that's why I went with it.
Nice. All right. Well, we have a great picture this week, and I would just want every foreman out there that's watching this to think about what you would think if you come over and the carpenter says something, your guy screwed something up, and let's roll the wall of shame.
Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame.
I gotta say, I love how you have the picture in the intro. That's pretty cool. Oh my goodness. Carpenter left his level hanging out and your guy just wired right through it.
That's unbelievable.
I just don't get how you don't just move that out of the way. Like, really? Like, dude, that level is worth way more than that wire. That
That's
cable.
got to be a joke. That's unbelievable.
When I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect. Like they're like, hey, they have a walk today, and there's some problems with what happened today. It's like, oh yeah, what is it? Your guy wired right through our carpenter's level.
That's one of the reasons I love this podcast. It's just because of crap like that. You know, you come in, you get to see stuff like that. I mean, if people don't enjoy coming over watching and seeing some of this stuff, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You just don't really care about the industry.
You gotta have quality control. Like you have to tell the guy, hey, don't wire through the carpenter's level ever. Like I mean, basically they got lineman's pliers and they'll just cut it out of their way and pull it out, you know, whatever. But I thought that was a good one, and it looked just like a stud. It was yellow. It was yellow just like a stud.
Yeah. That's the first stud I've seen that had a little leveling thing in it.
I know, right?
God,
I mean,
man,
that's somebody not paying attention. Like, dude, I would have, like, if that would have been my job site, I would have definitely put it on Wall of Shame. I'd have been like, oh, dude, this is going on Wall of Shame right here.
I would even put their name, who did it.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
Be like, this is my apprentice so-and-so. Can you believe this? I can't believe it.
And that's really awesome. Juan, thanks a lot for joining us, man. And I agree with you. Yeah, the stats of the electric vehicle, that's gonna. Yeah, dude, it's funny. Like we got you a little bit, but
I was actually surprised that you had co-making panel too, because that's just branch circuits and service calculation loads and stuff. I knew co-making panel too wasn't it? So that
was and 10 I think is Article 230.
I wasn't sure on that.
Yeah, but I might actually throw a 10 in there next week, but
I just knew one of them for sure. The other one I guessed at, and I took the closest one to it.
You're gonna get like schooled up on all of them by the time it's all said and done. But there's no way I could let you go 3 for 3 every week, man. Dude, but I told you it was easy. And I was right. And you had to guess to make it easy, but it's a lot. It's a lot of fun, especially since I'm appreciating James for being like a good sport when like he gets them wrong or whatever, and stuff. It's when I confuse you, it's awesome because I love the vape one, man. I was like, oh man, hopefully he chooses vape. I was like, oh man, because like it's so impractical for vape to be like there was 25 vape things that happened or something, and I'm talking about 6,500 house fires or whatever. And I was like, I hope he picks vape as the number one cause, and you're all, I'm gonna go vape. And I was like, oh yes. I was like,
they got this one little gift that they have. They got this guy. He's a New York Jets fan. They score, and he's that's the way I feel right now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do that in New York a lot. Juan probably knows that,
Me too. I agree. That's the best statement ever. Why I agree with that.
Nice. Yeah, it's so much fun to do these. We're already on freaking hour and a half, and
I'm ready to go eat. I'm hungry.
Look for the Nat King Code podcast on Spotify, and I will post all the like myths of the weeks. If you want me to do certain ones, James, on your topics or whatever you want me to do, I'll post them up there, and I'll spread the links around, and like people can listen to them when they're at work or whatever. But it's a lot of fun. Like you bring a lot of stuff to the table, and it's awesome to be joining you every week and have you putting these together and just having fun, just talking about like basically talking shop. We're actually doing what the union doesn't want us to do. we're talking shop, like when we're not at work, But at the
I'm
same
always
time,
talking shop. I
yeah,
like
me
talking
too.
code. You know,
Yeah,
if I don't know something, I'll tell you. I'll go. I have
yeah.
to check on that. I'm not 100% sure, but
Well, you'll have to go back and look at this episode again because they actually had infused sizing in your slides, 601 amp fuse.
mhm,
And I don't know why they have that. I don't understand what it's for.
I don't either.
You
But
know?
for some reason, they had them.
Yeah. So we'll have to maybe do that for a minute
Yeah,
and, go from there. But,
I'd have to do some research on that because I have no freaking idea.
well, we really appreciate everyone joining us every week. It's always been a lot of fun doing these. Like I say, James has as much fun. I mean, he's gonna be like carrying like a trophy around, the Willie Quiz trophy around like all week, and like I say, I gotta step it up. Like that was not a good performance by me. So like I say, I gotta step it up. I gotta get better at stumping the old stall cup, stumping stall cup. So obviously, I did a poor job this week, but at the same time, you had some really good guesses. So
I did. I guess.
I can't. Yeah, I can't shame myself on that. I did decent, but I gotta pick it up and
Well,
we might
only
actually.
I guessed at one. The third one, I had a reason why I picked it, and the first one, I literally knew what the answer was.
Yeah,
So
I knew you. Dude, I gave that to you as an easy slam dunk. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I
it
was like,
was.
oh,
Well, that's why I
that's a
read it.
slam
I was
dunk.
like, that's a trick for a lot of people that really don't know. You know,
Yeah,
but it was 1896 and 97 was the code that next
yeah.
year. And actually, if you go, let's say,
Oh, dude, awesome one. Like, if you get that license, dude, that's gonna be awesome for you to get that JW license, man.
yeah. Uh, but when I was reading that, back before that, there was actually four bodies. I think you had the United States, you had Germany, I think you had the UK, and somebody else. That there was actually a national code that everybody was using at that point before it split off, and then you had the code. It was called a national code, if I remember
Okay.
this correctly. It's been a long time, but
Right.
I remember them teaching that, and then they came in, and the guy that was the chairman of the committee, he passed away right before it was going to be the new code in 1896, and another guy come in, and he actually ended up being the chairman of that uh, new code when it was adopted, and he was put in at that time as the new chairman. I don't remember the guy's name or anything, but if I remember right, that's how all that code process and everything started, was with four different countries.
Don't remember his name, huh?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, we'll see if you do well on the next Willie Quiz next week. But
I'm giving you ammunition.
awesome! You're such a good sport, and I love putting those together. And I'll try to get a little bit better. I didn't really have too much time this week, and I tried to just do some stuff that everyone would find interesting. And like I say, you nailed it, sir. You got it this week. So,
I'm the man.
Awesome.
I'm the
Awesome
man
job.
this week. I'm going to
Three-
go
three
enjoy
for
my food and act like a king tonight.
Dude, you better not say that. Everyone's gonna get triggered if you call yourself King James, man.
I never did
But,
that. You did.
yeah, I might have done. I was
Stoking
possible,
that fire.
I know, right? Dude, I really appreciate everyone joining. Thanks, David Engelhart. Thanks, Mike Wilson. Thanks, Juan Gonzalez. Thanks, all the people. We got John Reeds, all the people that joined tonight. Really appreciate y'all joining, and we had a great time doing this. And remember, make every day an easy day. We'll see you guys again on the next one.
Amen. Everybody have a good week and weekend. We'll see y'all next Wednesday. We'll be on next Wednesday. So
Wednesday, next
not
week.
Thursday. So everybody knows that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's take it out.